Welcome to this episode of the Good Grief Believer podcast. I am the host, Julie Craig, and I'm excited to be here today with Suzy McNamara. She is currently the Director of Development for the Athenaeum Center in Chicago.
That's right.
And she has a book coming out at the end of May. And her book is called The Silkworm, the Magician, and the Sister Tree. And she's going to share in that book some really, really insightful things that she has learned through her journey with grief. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. And thank you, Suzy, for being willing to come and share your experiences.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on. It's really wonderful to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so will you just start with giving a little a life sketch, where you're from, your family background, tell us about this job, things like that.
Oh, sure. So I am from Chicago, the Chicago area. I grew up in Evanston, Illinois, which is a suburb just north of Chicago. And I grew up in a family. My family is Jewish, but atheists. And I actually converted to Catholicism when I was a teenager, which has really informed my whole adult life, as you can imagine. It was a big change. And I went to college at University of Michigan, and I went to law school at Loyola in Chicago and practiced for a very short time before having 4 kids with my husband, Bob.
Wow.
And I stayed home to raise them for many years before going back into the workforce.
Wow.
I'm a poet. I've just written my first book, so I'm getting used to the idea of calling myself an author. I'm not sure, but I guess I am now. And it's really been such a gift to have the experience of writing my memoir about, some pretty tough times that I had, and now sharing my stories with people and hopefully encouraging them to share their stories with me. That's the best part.
I am so happy about that. I'm excited that you were willing to share what had happened throughout your life. And I'm also excited for you to share how your faith has informed that process. Mm-hmm. It's been a huge anchor for you. And I'm excited that we're going to talk about that, about your conversion and
right. I mean, it's, I can't imagine surviving the last few years without it, to be honest. So I'm really happy to be talking about it.
Yeah. Now, what's the Athenaeum Center?
So the Athenaeum Center, it's a historic theater building in the heart of the Lakeview neighborhood in Chicago. Chicago has a rich history of theater and comedy and music, and the Athenaeum Center, the mission here is to deliver encounters with beauty to people, beauty and truth, and to see the world with a Catholic worldview, which means loving and welcoming and expansive.
Yeah.
And so the programming here is really dedicated to that mission. So we have great works of theater and music and philosophy. It's all happening here. It's really exciting. I've only been here a month, but I'm really, I guess, I've really been taken in by the energy and the enthusiasm of everybody here. And it's just really been a wonderful experience.
I love that. I did my master's degree at Gonzaga University, which is a Jesuit university, mm-hmm. and I love that one of the mantras there is to see God in all things, right?
Right.
And when you think of God as the great creator, and then you infuse that into creative activity, mm-hmm. it is going to be more beautiful, more expansive, more real, right?
Right, more tangible. I mean, we can use the arts, and all the beauty and paintings and theater and music and literature to invite people in to consider a life of faith, consider a connection with God,
Yes.
and the art can encompass you and make you feel like you're never abandoned when you live, amidst that beauty and that connection, that real spiritual connection.
It's so, so true. That is absolutely true. And it makes such a difference having that faith when you have been through something very, very difficult, right?
It does. Yeah.
So,
I was very lucky to have that.
oh, well, that's what I would love to start off with. You tragically lost a sister, and then you had the experience of a slow decline with your husband. Could you just tell us about each of them?
Sure.
What did you love about them?
Oh,
Bring them
that's a fun way to
us.
start. I like that.
Yes.
Instead of starting with the sad part. My sister Lizzo, we were very close our whole lives, and she's 3 years younger than me, and she looked at the world with love. She treated everyone with love and everyone with kindness, and I truly am not exaggerating. I mean, everybody loved her because everybody was an old friend to her, and she liked nothing more than listening to you tell your stories or laughing with you, being surrounded by the people. But she was just always so nice and good and kind. And because of that, I see the world that way, because while I was being formed as a person, I was in the constant presence of somebody who always treated me and everyone else, kindly, who, there was no limit to her love. And so it was just such a gift to have her in my life always. I mean, we talked every day. We were really, really close. Wow. And my husband, he passed away from early onset Alzheimer's. And so unfortunately, she became very ill from a lung disease, probably caused by COVID. It was never for sure determined, and passed away just a few months before my husband died. But
so you were grieving
Bob,
her at the same time.
Right. Well, I really had a difficult time. I couldn't really process her death because it was just as Bob was entering into the final stages of Alzheimer's, and it was just too heavy a weight to bear, which I'm sure was not very healthy, but and it certainly wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, it was just too much for me to bear, to be honest. And, but my husband, we came from such different backgrounds. I came from a very extremely liberal, Jewish/Irish community in South Evanston. My father was I like to call him a devout atheist. And, we had a very different upbringing. I mean, things were pretty chaotic, and lively and chaotic. There's just always a lot of drama and and then, my husband grew up in a more traditional Irish Catholic home. And so we just really came from very different backgrounds, to put it mildly. Like in my house,
he must have loved the spice you brought into his life.
I hope so. Certainly got his fair share of it. Yeah, no, I think he did. I think he definitely did. But he was just so calm and so steady and just so different from, the men I was used to being in my life.
Yeah.
But it was funny because we just instantly connected. We both loved music and both loved English and Irish literature and both, loved movies. And we just always had this connection from really the moment that we met. And it was just so magical. We met in law school, the first day of law school.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah. It was.
So were you in the same class?
We were. Well, we were in the same year. We were in different sections, but we were in the same. We were pretty social. Okay. Maybe not the best students, but so there was sort of a group of us in our law school that just kind of did everything together because we were all very social and loved to hang out and probably should have loved to study more, but we got through fine. We all got through fine, and it was pretty fun. It was really great, and so. And we really from the time we met or the time we became boyfriend and girlfriend, I guess, we really didn't spend very much time apart our entire lives. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to. We just really loved being in each other's company. And, I started noticing his personality and he was always just so deeply engaged with whoever he was talking to. Mm-hmm. And really, it was just so authentic to him. I mean, he really did care about whatever was going on with whoever he was talking to. And he's just such a wonderful person. I mean, I really was, as sad as the last few years have been, I very much recognize and appreciate how incredibly lucky I've been.
Right. What a gift
in my life to have both those people in my life. But Alzheimer's, you start losing the person pretty much from the time the illness begins, because it really affects the personality. And I could just feel like our very deep connection sort of fraying, that invisible string kind of fraying a little bit, just we weren't, because it was just such a magical connection. So it was very apparent, when it wasn't really the same. And then he was, diagnosed with early onset. So
how old was he when he was diagnosed?
57.
Oh my goodness.
But he probably had it from the time he was 52, like looking back, but he lost his own sister, which was, incredibly tragic. And so there were reasons why, he could have been acting different, because he really did have horrible life events.
Right.
And he was diagnosed with depression, clinical depression, but that was incorrect. It was actually yeah.
So because incidentally these events were happening around the same time that the symptoms,
that the disease took hold, and they certainly didn't cause it, because that's not how it works. But I'm sure that they may have pushed it along. I mean, to have that extreme trauma, of course.
There is absolutely a physical aspect to grief.
Oh, yes.
You feel it in every cell of your body.
You really do. Yeah. You definitely do. And so we were able to, the kids and I, it was very tough. It's very tough. One of the hardest parts of early onset is if you have children, they're pretty young, with the time that their father, and they start losing their dad at the same time you start losing your husband. And my youngest was probably like 14, which is really a terrible age to start, losing that connection with your father, especially when you have such an amazing one, and we didn't know why. So that was really confusing and upsetting. And then when he was diagnosed, it was so scary, because it's just a terrifying illness, to be honest. You don't know how it's going to progress, how fast it's going to progress, what his symptoms. I mean, you read these symptoms that are possible, but you don't know. And they all sound so horrible and scary, when you read what's coming down the pike. And, it's tough. So, we definitely had a tough year, all of us kind of adjusting. And then we really came together. And I mean, he's just the greatest. And we were so grateful that we were able to take care of him, but it was difficult for sure.
How did his personality change in an aggressive way or in a passive way?
That's funny when you're maybe funny is not the correct word, but when your spouse is diagnosed, you get a pamphlet, how they give those little brochures when you have whatever illness it is. And this one, for Alzheimer's, and they list the possibilities of things that you should be prepared are going to happen. And when I read that brochure, I was like, oh, none of that's going to happen. I mean, that can't be possible. Not with my gentle, sweet, wonderful husband. And I was really, there was a couple of days where he definitely, I mean, we never had a fight the entire time we were married until he got sick, and so it was just, I was completely ill prepared, but it only was a few days. And we just had to do a little bit of adjusting with the medication. He was fine. He was back to he was a very gentle person. So, but those couple of days are scary. And believe me, that is an issue for many, many, many caregivers. And that can often be the difference between being able to keep them at home and not being able to. So it's, I was so relieved that we were able to control that, and very lucky.
Wow. And weren't you so glad you had the strength of that relationship going in?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
So,
I mean, it made it that much more devastating to lose. However, I really do keep going back to this. I mean, I was just so lucky to have that kind of magic and that kind of love and that kind of romance. I mean,
yep.
so lucky.
Yeah. Well, and so tell me about your experience with how your shared faith affected your life together.
You know, it, it's funny because he was not, before he got sick. I mean, since I converted, you know, I fought so hard to become a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was very committed to practicing in a very intentional way.
Right.
But I also just loved it so much, to be honest. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I became Catholic. I was so happy every time. I'm still so happy every time I walk into a church. I'm like a child. I mean, it just makes me so, and how, you know, fortunate it is that I know what makes me happy.
Yes.
But, you know, he was not as serious about his faith, I would say. But I think he was very happy that I was raising the kids in such a faithful way and all that. Not that he was so kind and gentle. He certainly behaved as somebody who very immersed in faith.
Right.
But in terms of going to mass and all that, not until then. That was actually one kind of silver lining, I guess, is that when he became sick, you know, I think it made him very childlike in a lot of ways.
Right.
And we participated in 2 different online prayer groups together, which he really loved and really looked forward to. And I can't tell you how, it's going to make me cry thinking about it, but I can't tell you how incredible it was for me when he couldn't really articulate thoughts or sentences in any kind of linear way, but then to hear him reciting, like, you know, the Hail Mary or Our Father, it was just so beautiful, really, really beautiful. And, you know, when he died, he kept saying, the couple of days before he died, he kept pointing to the corner and saying, that man wants me to go with him. Suzy, be careful. That man wants me to go with him. And I was in such denial. I really so badly did not want it to be happening, you know, that I just was in denial, even though it was pretty clear, you know, looking back what was happening. But I mean, my gosh, how incredible, you know. And then the day before he died, I think it was, he put his arm up and was actually like, you know, reaching for the light. And I mean, there was no question of what was happening. And I pulled his arm down because if I could stop it.
That's right. Right. Like you could.
Sure. I've got that kind of power. Right. So anyway, but then, you know, as I finally kind of let it seep in, and it really just felt like heaven had come into our room to take him instead of him being stolen away. And, you know, it just really felt so beautiful and so loving. And we, you know, we were so blessed by that. As much as I didn't really want it to happen. And it's interesting because my children, you know, they were all experiencing it too. And you know, my daughter wanted to go to mass the next day or after he passed away. And she, you know, was not the most faithful mass attendant. And, but I mean, how can you have an experience like that and not believe? Because we were watching it happen, you know. I mean, it was pretty incredible.
You know, I love that you said heaven had come in to reach him instead of him being just taken away.
Yeah.
That I hope that your experience, your real experience, can give some peace, some comfort to people who maybe their loved one passed away alone, and they think, you know, maybe they feel guilt or like it was a tragic event, but I believe what you're saying. I believe that there are those who come to escort our loved ones into.
I mean, I watched it. I literally watched it happen. I mean, it was just beautiful. It was so tangible in our room. It really was.
So then it's not something to be afraid of. It's not something to be.
No, I mean, I so badly did not want him to die, and just watching all that happen, I really it was such a gift to me, because there's, instead of this, he was been sick for so long, and, his mind didn't work. His beautiful, incredible, he was so smart, mind wasn't working, and his body, he was so athletic, and, that wasn't working anymore. And here was, he was being guided into the next life where he would be happy and would be healthy. And, it's, it's pretty incredible, pretty magical, pretty beautiful. But, I feel like when somebody passes, if you love them, there's so much guilt, but I think that's just part of your grief.
Yeah.
Because none of it is rational. But I think that it's like your mind playing tricks on you. So if I could give the message to anybody, which is so many people going through this kind of grief now, I would say to really try to be kind to yourself, and to recognize if that you have these feelings of grief, of guilt, that's just part of grief. When it's somebody's time, it is somebody's time. And we do not have the power to control that.
I absolutely believe that. This was a solace to me, because even though my husband had been sick, I definitely did not think he was going to pass the night that he did. And, but then I could look at so many examples where someone should have died and by some miracle,
right.
They pull through, and then other so random, odd,
right.
Inexplicable experiences were like, really? That happened?
Right.
I believe like you, I really believe that, that we live all the days that we are meant to live. Even those who, even when they take their lives, there are so many circumstances that could come into play to prevent it,
Absolutely. We don't understand.
We don't
as
know.
humans and smart
God
humans.
Really is in control.
Right.
Yeah.
And just accepting that, hopefully, we can give ourselves a break.
That's right. And it's just another testament to me of the mercy and love of God. That,
right.
Yeah, he knows our days. He counts the hairs on our head, right?
Right. He
sees the sparrow.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about your conversion to
oh my gosh.
Christianity. This sounds like a fascinating story.
Yeah. So, like I said, I grew up in my family was Jewish heritage, but very much atheist. That was definitely the rule of the house. It was forcefully told us many, many times. And, I wasn't, I was only, when we were little kids, we traveled quite a bit. We went to Europe and, many, many times and all over the place. And we were in Rome. I was 9 and my sister was 6. And I was just so taken in by the Vatican and, the beauty of all that art.
Yeah.
And we stopped at the Pieta, at Michelangelo's Pieta. And I just was like so instantly drawn in by Mary, and by Mary, like cradling her broken son. And I just remember feeling like I just want to be with her.
Wow.
Like this very distinct feeling of just wanting to be with her. And it was really from that time on. When I was in junior high, my best friend was Catholic, and I went to mass with her, and I was just always so like happy. I was just filled with joy when I walked into church. And once again, I'd look at the statue of Mary and just be like, oh, I just want to be here with her.
You feel that gentleness, that goodness.
I just felt like it was safe, and I just felt like it was home.
Wow.
I felt like that was where I belonged. And so I decided for sure that I wanted to convert when I was 14, but I just didn't think that that would be, allowed to happen
Right,
when I was living in my parents' home. And, and I always, I say this a lot, but I am very ashamed at how cowardly I was about sharing, my feelings with my parents. But also, I think part of
you
me,
were 14.
I was 14.
Yeah.
14-year-old girl. So,
yeah. You literally, you cannot impose your understanding and thoughts as a grown adult woman onto a 14-year-old.
Thank you for saying that.
It's not possible.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it just made me so happy, to be honest. So it's almost like I didn't want to enter into this conflict. And there would be quite a bit of conflict, as there was later on when the cat was out of the bag.
I can see that. Yeah, something special that you were holding to yourself.
Exactly.
That is what teenagers do.
Yes, they want to keep something special for themselves, and the parents just want to keep them safe, for the most part. But sometimes
their
those things are
understanding of safe, their version of safe. Yeah.
Right. And so when I went to college, right from the beginning, I began the process of formation and became Catholic the spring of my sophomore year.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, what a gift. Oh. I mean, there were difficult times, when my family did learn that I'd converted and but at the end of the day, we were really close, as crazy and, lots of fighting, lots of drama, lots of craziness. Not with my sister. She was perfect, but everybody else. But, we did really, really love each other, and we're very, very close. So, they were, of course, angry and hurt, but it didn't cause any kind of separation. Thank goodness. I mean, thank goodness, because we were quite close.
And
they loved Bob. They absolutely loved him. It's so funny because people would think that they wouldn't like him because, he was this Irish Catholic kid. I mean, he was just so lovable, and my parents really loved him. So,
well, and that shows how much they really did love you. Right.
Yeah.
And it's understandable from their perspective. They were saving you from, what they thought were fairy tales and
that's right.
Heartache and not understanding your experience of how the faith was just filling your soul with so much meaning and purpose.
Well, yeah, I think they just worried too, that it was somehow demonstrating some sort of wish on my part to not be with them, not be close with them, and I think that as a parent, it is pretty hard to take things your kids do, to not take it personally, because you love them so much, and they're so much a part of you. So I very much understand that. I do, and I'm just grateful that we were able to remain close. And well,
what's wonderful is not only did you choose a spouse that was going to honor your parents, right, but also that you chose a path that ultimately did honor your parents. It's not like you rebelled and became a terrible person. You rebelled and
that's true.
Right?
Yeah,
you rebelled and accepted principles that were going to actually endear you to them.
I think that's right. And I think that, thank you for saying that, but I think also just sometimes it just takes time.
Yeah.
And I think when they saw over time that I was just as close with them.
Yeah.
And it really didn't affect our relationship. In fact, between my sister and my mom, the three of us, we were very, very close. My dad passed away early, unfortunately, but, I was there with her, and my mom became quite ill the last few years of her life, and I was there with her all the time. And, we were very, very close. So it's sort of time had to tell the story in a way that it would be okay.
That's,
and it was more. And then when my sister was sick, I gave her a miraculous medal to wear, and she did wear it, which was sweet. And she loved the fact that all my friends, because I have all these prayer groups, they were all praying for her. And so I think it helped her because she was so scared,
Right.
And I think it actually did help her. And my mom, I grew up I raised my kids, and we have a very close parish, great lively parish where it's kind of a big extended family. It's just what you want in your parish community. And so my mom would come over, when I had another baby, and all these people would be dropping off meals, and they were so nice and fun. And when she saw that, I think, she could see why I was sort of gravitated towards that kind of
Right.
life.
Tell me, how did your belief in the resurrection of Christ affect your grief?
Well, for when I watched my two favorite people die right in front of me. And because my belief in heaven and my belief that Christ, will be welcoming, as the resurrected Christ will be welcomed my husband and my sister home. And I really do believe that. So if you really believe that, then of course I'm overwhelmed with grief that I don't get to be with
Right.
them in this life, of course.
Right.
But knowing that their story isn't over, it makes a difference between me surviving and getting out of bed in the morning and not, to be honest. And so I'm so grateful. And I'm in formation to become a secular Carmelite. And so I do a lot of reading of Teresa de Avila. And she was really kind of my best friend during Bob's illness and Lizzo's illness and death. And only the way that she looks at her perspective on this life and the next life, really, it was a great framework for me to process what was happening, I think is the best way that I could describe that. But the title of my book, The Silkworm, refers to the metaphor that she uses of a silkworm weaving a cocoon to shield out all the worldly distractions and delve into your soul where God resides. And just that metaphor for me, especially as a caregiver with somebody with Alzheimer's, because the outside world is so harsh.
Yes.
It's scary and people can be very unkind and,
Yes.
these humiliating things can happen once you step outside your door. It's just so awful in so many ways. But I just sort of imagined us in our little cocoon and where we could be close to God, but also, really close to who we are as people, kind of preserve our identity as people. And it really was, that made a huge difference for me. And also Teresa talks quite a bit about suffering and how suffering brings you closer to Christ. And, when I was watching my husband suffer every possible way you can suffer, physically, emotionally, cognitively, humiliation, all, but if I could really just sort of put it in the framework of him becoming closer to Christ instead of it not being for being for nothing.
Right.
That was just very helpful to me.
Neat. I love that. And that is a great segue into your book, which is The Silkworm, the Magician, and the Sister Tree.
So I explained the silkworm.
Yes. Tell me about the magician and the sister tree.
So the magician just refers to the magic between a husband and wife or any two people in love. And just, that magic. And also between two sisters who are very close. And it's not something you could see, but it's certainly something that you feel and experience. And the sister tree, so when my sister died, we made a plaque for her, a memorial plaque, and it's at a tree in a park close to my home. And she told me, a couple of years before Bob died, I was on the phone with her and I was telling her about the plans I'd made for Bob's funeral, because that was just I had to have some feeling of control, and I knew what he wanted, the Irish music he wanted played and all that. So I was telling her about that. And then I was passing by a tree that we had for my dad, a memorial tree. And she's like, just put me there. Just put me there. You're the only one who's going to visit me anyway, which is so, nobody was loved more than my sister, because she was so perfect and amazing and made you feel great all the time, so she was just very humble. So long story short, it became her tree, and I was at the tree and a woman came up to me, and I had a really hard time looking at the plaque. It just, I wasn't prepared to accept the fact that she had passed. And this woman came up and she wanted to know about the person, my sister. And then she told me she had just lost her sister. And really tragic story, by the way. I talked to her for about an hour, and it was just horrendous. But so, I think Lizzo's spirit or something kind of got at me because she was so humble and so generous. And
here she was still being friends and loving and kind. Yeah.
Right. She's still pushing me to be a good person. And so I said, oh, why don't you just bring some flowers or bring something for your sister? And this could be her tree too. We'll just make it the sister tree. And then since that time, we have I know a shockingly number of women who have lost sisters. It's just a gut punch every time. It really, for all of these people, it's just such a horrible thing to happen to you.
It's a super close relationship, or it can be.
It can be. And so I made stones for the sisters and put them around surrounding my sister's plaque. And so they can come and visit, and have that experience of feeling close to their sisters there. And the best part about it for me, selfishly, is I absolutely love hearing the stories. Like we'll go and we'll place the stone. I just did it this past Sunday. We'll place the stone and then I'll say like, tell me a story about your sister. And they are always hilarious. Like people just have the fun, because that relationship, when you're close, you spend like 80% of the time laughing if you're really close to your sister.
Yes.
For whatever reason. And so I just love those stories. And it's just been an amazing gift to me. Amazing gift. Community, being able to talk about our sisters who we miss so much. It's just been amazing.
Ooh, this idea. What a fantastic, yes, what a fantastic way to memorialize and come together and laugh together, grieve together.
Yeah. There's laughter, there's cheers, it's just like, it's amazing. It really is amazing.
The sister tree is there for
all
several.
Sisters.
Oh my goodness.
In fact, I've got since, I live in Chicago and the winter was pretty tough this year. So we haven't, on Sunday was the first time we had done that for a couple months. And so I have a bunch of stones that I have to put on there, but I really like to go with the sister because that's the whole, and I want them to feel they don't have to go with me every
ritual.
time.
What a great ritual.
It's really been amazing. I have to say, it's really been amazing. And I know my sister, oh my gosh, she would love it so much. Like to be surrounded by women, not to have all the spotlight on her because she was so humble.
But to have them gathered and feel love. Yep. It's just right up her alley, right?
Totally up her alley. I mean, and she'd be so she was so cute and just could never believe anybody would pay any attention to her. She was just so humble.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's really been great.
Wow. I'm so glad you shared that story. Do you share that story in the book?
I do. And it's interesting because the book is structured. It's basically the year, 1 year. So in January, we found out my sister was sick and she might not make it. And then she died in May. And then my husband died in December. So the book is sort of structured going through that year.
Wow.
But then I do flashback sort of chapters where we talk about the relationship, which are more lighthearted, as you can imagine. And then, but then I did do the chapter about the sister tree, and I had it kind of, sequentially right after she died, like it happened. And then my editor suggested I wait and put it at the end because it is so hopeful.
Yes.
And I think it reads well that way. We'll see what people think.
I'm super excited. I really am excited to. I buy all these physical books and put them in my library. I have a whole grief section of my home library, and I end up, giving books to people all the time.
I know. I love giving books to people.
Yeah,
it's the best.
Okay, so
and then my friend,
when will this book come out? The end of May.
It's coming at the end of May.
And then where can people buy it if they want to?
So I am going to be doing book signings kind of all over, I think. I think all over, but I know in definitely a few cities. And but it'll be on Amazon, and it will be, I'm not sure where, I think maybe Barnes & Noble. I'm not positive. I think so, though.
Okay.
So it should be, and also they can go to my website. So I'll have links to make it super easy, like for them
Great.
to find it.
And what's your website?
I was lucky to get SuzyMcNamara.com.
Okay. SuzyMcNamara.com. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's easy. And there'll be links, and believe me, it'll be very easy to find. So, and the cover, my girlfriend painted the cover. The cover is a painting of the sister tree. And my friend, I'm very lucky to have a friend who's a nationally renowned artist and incredible. And so I asked her, I was like, would you mind like painting the sister tree for the cover? And she went like the next day or maybe 2 days later and gave me these 2 incredible paintings. I have them framed in my living room, but they're of the sister tree. And she gave me the choice. One just is sort of a standard of the tree. It's beautiful, but then one, she went at sunrise. So the painting, actually, there's like a ray of sun coming. It's really quite beautiful. I mean,
and is that the one you chose?
Yes, I did, because everybody, 100% of the people chose that one because it is very hopeful, which is, great way for us to feel.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love that. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, good. Good.
Now,
thank you.
You do have some themes in the book about the emotional labor of caregiving, losing someone before they're gone, grief being lonely, a lonely sport, and then when you can't find the answers. Did you want to touch on any of those briefly?
Well, when you're losing somebody to Alzheimer's, the grieving starts even before they're diagnosed, because your relationship does change as soon as the illness takes hold, like we talked about. And so every day you lose a little bit more of them. So every day is a new occasion for grief. And I think that is something that people who have not experienced that, thank goodness, they have a hard time. They understand, like I really noticed the difference because Bob, I was grieving him for years before my sister got sick. And then, but when she got sick and passed away, everybody understood that and knew what to do. Like they know all the rituals that we have for memorializing somebody. And it was amazing. I mean, it was amazing how kind people were to me. But the part that they didn't understand was that I'd been grieving Bob all those years. And so I'm hoping that this book does a good job of explaining that so that other caregivers don't feel so lonely, because it can be very, very isolating. And to be suffering all that grief and all those difficult days, because the caregiving is difficult, and without people really understanding what you're going through. So I'm hoping that by reading the book, they just feel like they've got some company. You feel it's very lonely.
Yeah.
It is.
And especially when so many people have not experienced it.
Thank goodness they haven't, but it does make it that, it's very difficult. And you become almost, because you have so many instances where people are too scared to talk about it because Alzheimer's is terrifying. And so people do kind of want to protect themselves from having to consider that, which I understand. But you have so many of those encounters where you're sort of brushed off, or, you're clearly making people uncomfortable, that you learn kind of to keep it to yourself. And, that's can be pretty unhealthy. It can be.
So now I imagine that your radar for this kind of situation is very high. And so when you encounter a situation where somebody might be where you were, or someone knew someone who was caring for someone with a long, slow, declining illness, what suggestions do you have for ways to support and help in that situation?
I guess one thing I would say is, if somebody who's caring for somebody who is, has a terminal illness, any kind of terminal illness, let them tell you what it's like.
Okay.
Because I don't know if I know I do this. I think we all do it. We sort of feel like we understand and we want to give advice and we want to fix and none of that is helpful because we don't really understand what it's like. Let them tell us what it's like and believe them. It's very, with early onset, my husband was, really handsome and, sweet up until really, maybe the last month or the last week. So I'd be like, oh, it's such a bummer, Bubs, whatever. And they were like, oh, he looks great. What do you mean? He looks great. And they're just being nice.
Right.
But, it makes you feel very lonely. It makes the caregiver feel like somehow they're not believed or they're exaggerating or whatever.
Right.
Because you're so tired.
Or how he's presenting in a moment is the full picture.
Right. Yeah. Right. Which is, in a way, I'm sort of glad now looking back, for Bob's sake, it is nice that people thought but it also it just felt very isolating at times. And so I really, and I have to stop myself even after experiencing this. Mm-hmm. If somebody is telling me, what stage their husband is in or whatever the situation, just listen to them and just tell you how sorry, don't try to fix it.
Yeah. Just be in the moment. Just be there with them.
Just be there with them and give them space and make them feel comfortable sharing. That's the best thing you can do.
It brings visually in my mind, it brings me back to that moment where you saw the Pieta and Mary is holding the broken Christ in her arms and she's just with him. She's just in that moment. And of course, because it's stone, it's frozen. Yeah. So maybe we need to think of ourselves in that way.
Yeah.
Just hold them, just sit and be with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. She couldn't fix the broken
She
Christ.
couldn't fix it. No.
Right. But she could.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to think of that. That's really nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah. There you go. That's my humanities background, Kevin.
Yeah. I guess that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's the power of art, right? It communicates
really is.
These very deep experiences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's just you can access your emotions.
Yes.
It makes it easier or gentler, to access emotions.
Some things just cannot be in words, but they can be experienced.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, this has been such a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Thank you for everything you have shared.
Oh, thank you for making it such a great experience.
I'm so glad. Yeah. And how are your kids managing?
For the two youngest, I have 4, and the 2 younger ones, they both lived with us each for 2 years, not at the same time. So they both had the experience of watching their fathers decline gradually. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was very difficult for them at first, but over time, they could sort of get used to it in a gradual way. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because they were both, really upset. And of course we all were, but over time, they both became incredible caregivers. Mm-hmm. And they're very sad, but they're in a different place because they went through the whole experience with them. And for my 2 older kids, they weren't able to spend as much time. And I think it was just more the shock of grief instead of the gradual acceptance of it. They spent plenty of time. I mean, they both spent time, but it wasn't quite the same.
Well, it is different to live there and see the day in and day out.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. So I think they had a little bit more of the shock of grief. So it's, they lost their father and they were sort of gypped out of the last few years with the real, him. So
have they been able to be a support to each other?
Oh, very much so. We're all very close. That's one thing. We've really been through something together, and they have their own text chain, which I fully support.
I yes.
I don't need to hear absolutely everything. Believe me.
That's right.
They have like the mom friendly one, and then the real one.
That's right. Yep. Absolutely.
No, but yeah, they're super close. Thank goodness. I mean, that's such a gift too. So,
well, you and your husband gave them a great gift.
oh,
You know,
thank you.
the love that you had for each other and the respect you had for each other must have just showered them in their,
that's so
in their
sweet.
lives.
Thank you.
Well, okay, this has just been wonderful, and I am excited for your book.
So nice. Thank you.
The Silkworm, the Magician, and the Sister Tree.
You'll have to come visit the Sister Tree sometime.
Yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be great?
I will reach out.
Okay, yes. Good. If you're ever in Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to see that. I made a note to ask you to send me a picture. I would really love to see a picture.
I have so many. So that'll be easy.
and what a great idea. I hope anybody who's listening thinks, I mean, that is something you can do, right?
It is really something you can do, and just sharing it.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. Yeah.
It's really
helped me a lot.
And for people to grieve together, you know, when you grieve with someone, it really does lessen your own grief.
It does.
It's
a heavy burden to carry alone.
Exactly. We're not meant to carry it alone.
We're not supposed to.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your faith community that you have that. I tell people all the time, please find a community of faith where you can be nurtured and nurture others. Well, my last question I always ask is, what do you think it means to grieve well?
Well, I think the first thing that you need to do, at least from my perspective, is to throw away the calendar. You know, people say, oh, getting through the first year is the hardest, or all those different timetables that we put on. And I think that puts a sort of strange pressure. Like you feel like you should be farther along, but you know, grief doesn't play by the same rules that we do. And it's going to take as long as it takes. And I think there shouldn't be any kind of pressure to like get over something. I mean, I'm never going to get over losing my husband or losing my sister. And I don't think I really want to. I mean, they're always going to be part of me, and I'm always going to be sad that they're not here. And I think that's okay. I do. I mean, I think if it was stopping me from going out and enjoying this life, which is a gift that we should appreciate, I think then it's a problem. But I will always be sad when I think that they're not here with me, of course. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I also think, you know, we have these rules about the proper way to honor somebody, or we have the rituals, which is, some of them are so obviously important, like funerals or whatever. But sometimes that's not the time that you feel the most devastated or the most, wind out of your sails kind of moment. And that's okay too. So I guess what I think it means to grieve well is to give yourself a break and let yourself have the feelings that you're going to have when you have them.
I love that. Thank you so much, Suzy.
You're welcome.
And God bless you, your kids.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experiences.
Oh, my pleasure, really.